Hey, calling out broker owners and team leaders because I feel like you guys are trying to solve the wrong problem. You think your agents need more training, more motivation. You think they need another sales meeting, another script, another role play, maybe another pep talk, another CRM reminder, another lecture about prospecting. But let me ask you something. How many times have you already told your agents what to do? How many times have you told them to follow up and call their database? How many times have you told them to post that content, work those open houses, track their numbers, build their pipeline, and stop waiting for business to magically show up? And yet they still don't do it. So maybe the problem isn't that they don't know what to do. Maybe the problem is that there's no operating system forcing the business to happen. Because here's the truth. Most unproductive agents are not failing because they're bad people. They're failing because they're operating without structure. There's no pipeline system. There's no daily rhythm. There's no CRM discipline, no lead nurturing process. They don't have accountability. So essentially, there's no clear path from I have a license to now I know how to generate, convert, and scale business. And if you're leading a team or a brokerage full of agents like that, you don't just have an agent problem, you have an infrastructure problem. I'm Jonathan Guzman. Today, I want to talk to directly to team leaders, brokerage owners, managing brokers, and real estate leaders who are carrying unproductive agents. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The agents who show up to meetings but don't produce, right? The agents who say they want 6 figures, but they won't make 10 follow-up calls. They're always getting ready, but never actually generating business. They're blaming the market. They're blaming the rates, leads, inventory, the brokerage, the CRM. In fact, they blame everything except the fact that they don't have a real business building process. The sad part is that many of these agents are living paycheck to paycheck. They're stressed, they're embarrassed, they're inconsistent, they're one slow month away from panic. They got into real estate because they wanted freedom, income, lifestyle, and control, but what they've actually built is financial anxiety with a real estate license. And as the leader, you feel that because their lack of production doesn't just affect them, it affects your team revenue, it affects your brokerage culture, it affects retention, also your recruiting and your ability to scale. So when you have a group of agents who aren't producing, the entire organization feels heavy. So in this video, I want to break down what's really missing, okay? It's not another motivational speech or another generic training. It's not just telling them, hey guys, be consistent. What they're missing is a robust operating system, all right? A system that generates business and nurtures business, converts business, tracks business, and then allows them to scale. Because without that, you don't have agents. You have licensed consumers hoping real estate works out. So let's be honest. Most agents aren't running businesses. They're reacting to random opportunities. A cousin wants to buy a house. Maybe a friend asked them about the market. Maybe from someone from church wants to sell. A Zillow lead maybe came in. An open house visitor says they may be interested. A past client randomly texts them. That's their business model. Random opportunity, random follow-up, random income. It's not a business. But this is why so many agents are broke. Not because there's no money in real estate, not because buyers and sellers disappeared, not because the market is impossible. It's because they don't have a system that creates predictable conversations. And real estate is a conversation business. If your agents are not creating conversations every day, they're not building a business. They're waiting. They're waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the market to improve, waiting for rates to come down or leads to get better, waiting for someone else to hand them the opportunity. And that's the mindset that kills production. As a leader, you can't scale a brokerage or a team on hope. You cannot scale on random activity. You can't build a powerful agent culture when everyone is doing something different. Nobody knows their numbers and half the agents don't have a real pipeline. At some point, you have to stop asking, why aren't my agents producing? And start to ask, what system are we giving them to produce? Here's what a lot of brokerages get this wrong. They keep giving agents more information, more classes and scripts, webinars, training sessions. They bring in guest speakers, more market updates. Information is not implementation. Your agents don't have an information problem. In today's day and age, we can get information everywhere. They have an execution problem. Execution doesn't happen just because somebody watched the training. Execution happens when there's a system in place, when there's a standard, a schedule, a scorecard, and accountability. That's the missing piece. Most agents know they should follow up, but they don't have a follow-up system. They know they should call their database, but they don't know what to say, when to say it, who to prioritize, or how often to touch base with them. They know they should generate leads, but they don't have a daily pipeline creation process. They know they should have a CRM, but their CRM is basically a digital junk drawer full of dead contacts, old leads, and people they forgot to call. So what happens? They consume another training. They get motivated for a day. They take notes. They tell you, yeah, that was great. And then they go right back to the same behavior because behavior does not change without structure. Okay, so now let's talk about something most leaders don't want to admit. Low production is contagious. When agents are surrounded by other agents who aren't producing, low standards become normal. It becomes normal to not prospect, normal to not follow up, normal to not have appointments, normal to be broke, normal to say the market is just tough right now. And once that energy spreads throughout the team or the brokerage, it becomes very difficult difficult to build momentum because production is not just a numbers issue, it's a culture issue. Productive agents think differently. They move differently. They track differently. They follow up differently, protect their calendars. They treat their database differently. They don't wait for motivation. They operate from a system. That's why the top agents are not always the most talented. They're usually the most structured. And if you want more productive agents inside of your organization, you can't just recruit more people and hope a few figure it out. You need an environment where production is engineered, where the system pulls agents into the right activity, where everyone knows the standard, where everyone knows what creates business and what does not. Because a brokerage without an operating system becomes a place where agents hide. They hide behind being busy, behind learning and preparing, behind designing logos, ordering business cards, changing CRMs, tweaking bios. It's not revenue producing conversations. And if they're not having those revenue producing conversations, they're not building a business. It's as simple as that. So what is the Agent Growth Lab operating system? It is the structure that tells an agent exactly what to do every day and every week to generate, nurture, convert, and scale business. It removes the guessing. It removes emotional decision making. It removes the what should I do today problem, because the question is killing agents. A productive agent should not wake up wondering what to do. They should know. They should know who they need to call. They should know what leads they need to follow up with. They should know what appointments they're trying to set. They should know what conversations are active, which prospects are hot, warm, cold, dead, etc. They should know what marketing is going out. That's what an operating system does. It gives an agent a path. And it gives the leader visibility, because as the team leader or the broker owner, you cannot coach what you can't see. If you don't know how many calls were made, how many conversations happened, how many appointments were set, how many follow-ups were completed, or how many database touches went out, maybe how many leads are sitting untouched, then you're not leading production, you're just guessing. And guessing is not leadership. There are 5 parts every team or brokerage needs if they want to turn unproductive agents into productive agents. First is pipeline creation. Second is pipeline nurture. Third is pipeline conversion. Fourth is performance tracking. And lastly, we scale infrastructure. All right, so I want to break these down. So first is the pipeline creation part. This is the most important part because nothing else matters if your agents are not creating new opportunities. You cannot convert what does not exist. You can't follow up with nobody, right? You can't scale an empty pipeline. So the first question every leader should ask is, how are my agents creating conversations every single week? Not how many trainings did they attend? How many real conversations did they create? Because conversations are the raw material of this business. For newer agents, that might start with their warm network, their phone contacts, email list, past coworkers, family, community, social circle, but it can't stop there. They need a process to expand, okay? Open houses, database growth, referral partners, investor outreach, expireds, FISBOs, local business relationships, agent-to-agent referrals, social content with a real call to action, VSLs that position them as the authority, paid ads when the foundation is ready. The strategy can vary, but the standard cannot. Every agent needs a weekly pipeline creation number. How many people are they adding to their database? How many conversations are they starting? How many appointments are they setting? How many future opportunities are they identifying? If those numbers are 0, their future income is also 0. And that's the conversation most leaders need to be willing to have. Secondly is pipeline nurturing. This is where most agents lose an embarrassing amount of money. They meet people, they collect leads, have great conversations, they forget, they don't follow up. There's no categorization. There's no long-term nurturing sequences, no email sequences, no value adds. There is no next step. Then 6 months later, they see that person bought or sold with another agent and they say, I can't believe they didn't use me. When was the last time they heard from you? When was the last time you educated them? When was the last time you gave them value? When was the last time you made it obvious that you're the person they should call if they were thinking on buying or selling? See, most agents don't lose business because the client was disloyal. They lose business because they were invisible. That is why every brokerage and team needs a nurturing system. Every lead should have a category. Every category should have a follow-up rhythm. Every follow-up should have a purpose. Every person in the database should have a next step. Hot leads should be followed up with aggressively. Warm leads should be nurtured with value. Cold leads should still be touched consistently. Past clients should be loved on. Referral partners should be communicated with. Investors should be sent opportunities and market insights. Sellers should be educated before they're ready. Buyers should be guided before they raise their hand. This is how you create pipeline maturity, because not every lead is ready today. But a real business knows how to stay in front of people until they are. All right. Third is pipeline conversion. This is where skill comes in. Okay. A lot of agents have leads. They just don't convert them. Why is that? It's because they don't know how to lead a conversation. They don't know how to ask direct questions or how to uncover motivation. They don't know how to create urgency without being pushy or explain their value. So they default to weak language Let me know if you need anything. Whenever you're ready, just checking in, wanted to touch base. It's not leadership, okay? This is a passive follow-up. Passive follow-up produces passive results, okay? Your agents need a conversion framework. They need to know how to diagnose. What is the client's situation, their goals and timelines? What is their pain? What happens if they don't do anything? What is stopping them from moving forward? What would make them feel confident? That is the difference between an agent who chases and an agent who leads, because consumers do not need another license holder. They need clarity, and the agent who creates the most clarity usually wins. Okay, fourth is performance tracking. This is the part that most brokerages ignore. Okay, they want more production, but they don't track the behaviors that create production. It makes no sense. If you want your agents to produce, you need to know their numbers, right? How many new contacts they added, how many outbound conversations they're having, how many follow-ups have been completed, how many appointments have been set, how many appointments have been held, agreements signed, active clients, offers written, deals under contract, how many deals have closed. These numbers tell you the truth, and the truth is powerful, because if an agent says to you, what's actually happening, I'm doing everything and nothing is working, the numbers will show. Maybe they're not talking to enough people. That's an activity issue. Maybe they're talking to people but not setting appointments. That's a conversion issue. Maybe they're setting appointments but not signing clients. Well, it could be a presentation issue. Maybe they're signing clients but deals are falling apart, right? That could be a process, negotiation, maybe a client management issue, but all of this you need insight into, okay? The numbers will tell you where the leak is. And once you know where the leak is, coaching becomes specific. Not generic, not emotional, specific. That is how you actually help agents improve. Part 5 here is scale infrastructure, okay? So this is where most brokerages and teams miss the bigger opportunity. The goal is not to just help an agent close one deal. The goal is to help them build a business that can scale. That means they need infrastructure, a CRM setup, lead stages, follow-up automations, email nurturing, calendar blocks, content systems, video sales letters, VSLs, database campaigns, appointment setting processes, client onboarding, transaction timelines, review generation, referral systems, listing presentation process, buyer consultation processes, monthly business reviews. This is how an agent goes from random production to repeatable production. And this is how a leader goes from managing chaos to scaling an organization. Because when every agent is doing everything differently, the leader becomes the system. You become the reminder and the motivator. You become the accountability. You become the CRM and the follow-up manager, dragging everyone across the finish line. That's exhausting and it doesn't scale. But when the operating system is built correctly, the system carries the standard. Now you can lead, coach, and recruit into something real. Now you can say to agents, we don't just have a place to hang your license, we give you the infrastructure to build a business. That is a completely different value proposition. Let's talk about recruiting for a second, because every brokerage owner and team leader wants to recruit more agents. But here's the question. What are you recruiting them into? Is it more culture, more support, more training, more collaboration? Everybody says that. Every brokerage says they have support, training, and culture, but very few can say that they have an operating system that helps agents generate business, nurture their database, convert opportunities, track their numbers, and scale their production. That's just different. That's real value. All right. Serious agents, they don't just want a logo. They want leverage. They want systems. They want leadership. They want a path. They want to know that if they plug into your environment and do the work, there is a structure that can help them grow. And unproductive agents need that even more, because without structure, they'll stay stuck, dependent, and inconsistent. And eventually, they're going to leave the business. Or worse, they stay in your brokerage and contribute nothing, right? No production, no energy, no momentum, no growth, and that cannot be the standard. Now, let me be clear. You cannot want success more than your agents do. You cannot force someone to build a business. You cannot drag an agent into production if they're committed to staying comfortable. Some people aren't coachable. And as a leader, you have to be honest about that. But here's what you can do. You can build a system. You can set the standard. You can create the structure, provide the path, measure performance. You can identify who's serious and who's not. Because a good operating system, it does two things. It helps the right agents grow, and it exposes the agents who are not willing to work. Both are valuable, because once the system is in place, the conversation changes. It's no longer vague. It's no longer, I feel like you're not doing enough. It becomes very clear. Here is the standard. Here is the activity. Here is the system. Here are your numbers. And here's where you're falling short. Okay, but that's leadership. That is accountability. And that is what most agents secretly need, even if they resist it at first. Okay, so here's the big reframe. Stop thinking your brokerage needs more agents. Your brokerage needs more productive agents. It's a massive difference. A brokerage full of non-producing agents is not an asset. It's a liability. It creates support demand. It creates cultural drag, because agent count does not equal company strength. Productivity does. If If you have 100 agents and only 12 are producing, you don't have a 100 agent brokerage or a team. You have a 12 agent business with 88 people hanging around the ecosystem. That may sound harsh, but it's true. In the future, brokerage leadership belongs to the leaders who can increase agent productivity, not just recruit, not just motivate, not just retain, but actually install systems that helps agents produce. That is where the opportunity is, because the average agent is lost. They don't know how to create business, how to market themselves or follow up properly, build a database, position their value, and of course, they don't know how to scale. If you can become the leader who solves that, you become extremely valuable in the marketplace. So if you're a team leader or broker owner or a managing broker watching this, I want you to ask yourself a very direct question. Do your agents actually have an operating system, or are you just hoping they figure it out? Because hope is not a growth strategy. Meetings aren't a production strategy. Motivation is not an operating system. And training without implementation is just information. If you want more productive agents, you need a system that creates productive behavior, a system that generates conversations, nurtures leads, converts opportunities, tracks performance, creates accountability, a system that helps agents go from inconsistent income to predictable production. That is what changes the business. Agents win, your organization wins. When your agents have a pipeline, your culture changes. When your agents have structure, your leadership becomes easier. When they have systems in place, retention improves. And when your agents produce, recruiting becomes even easier. And when your brokerage becomes known as the place where agents actually grow, you are no longer competing on splits or empty promises. You are competing on outcomes. And that is a much, much stronger position. So the question is not, do your agents need another training? The question is, what systems are you giving them to build a real business? Because the brokerages and teams that answer that question are going to win. And the ones that don't, they're going to keep watching agents struggle, complain, underperform, and eventually disappear. There's always a price to pay. You either pay it now by building the infrastructure, or you pay it later through low production, weak retention, and agents who never become who they could have. If you're a top producing agent and your business is growing,